Chapter 18, ladies and gentlemen. Chapter 18 of Varjak Paw by S.F. Said, published in this edition at least by Corgi. Chapter 18. In the last of the chapters, chapter 17, our friend Varjak learned the skill slow time, whereby slowing his breathing, he kind of warps time-space continuum and moves faster than. It's a little bit like the way the warp drive works in Star Trek, if you like Star Trek. If you don't like Star Trek, it's still the way the warp drive works in Star Trek, but you may not be interested by that. Chapter 18. We're back in the alley. "I'm starving," grumbled Tam, late the next night, back in their alleys. The three of them sat on a high brick wall together, thinking about food. "My belly's shrinking, I can feel it." "Me too," said Varjak. "That mouse was good, but it was only a mouse." "You're right," said Holly. "This is getting serious. It's time for drastic action, and I've got a plan." She looked Varjak up and down. "First of all, though, you got to look normal. Tell me, Mr. Paw, are you ever planning to clean yourself?" Varjak shook his head. He was outside. He didn't have to wash. "At home, Mother was always washing me. I hated it." "You're not at home now." "Here she goes," sighed Tam. "I don't have to do anything that I don't like," said Varjak. "You can do what you want," agreed Holly. "But look at you. People will notice. They'll think you're wild and they'll take you away." Varjak inspected his coat. She was right. He was filthy. The fine silver-blue fur was completely caked in grime. "I like it," he said, rather pleased with himself. "Plus," she added, "you stink." He didn't respond. "I'm sorry, but you really do." Varjak looked at Tam, but even she was silent this time. Okay, he grumbled, reluctantly licking his paws. "You sound just like Mother sometimes." He stopped after a few licks. "Is that better?" Holly looked him calmly in the eye. "I'm not saying this to annoy you. I'm saying it because it's dangerous to look so dirty. You'll draw attention to us all and you'll ruin my plan. Now, do it properly, or I'm off." Varjak snorted but resumed his cleaning. "If you're a blue whatever it is, you should be proud of how you look," she coaxed. "We are the noblest of cats," he muttered through a mouthful of mud. But the old boast rang hollow in the city. Would any of his family rescue a stranger? The elder Paw, perhaps, but not the rest. So who was more noble? The blue, or this spiky street cat who'd actually saved his life? The question bothered him. It turned everything that he believed on its head. So he pushed it out of his mind and concentrated on the cleaning. "All right," said Holly at last. "That'll do." Varjak's fur was a dull grey colour. It looked very ordinary. It didn't look like the coat of a Mesopotamian blue anymore. He liked it that way. "Now, collar. You can't be a street cat with a collar. Come here." This was more like it. He'd always hated that thing around his neck. Holly gnawed at the collar. He was vulnerable, balanced on top of a wall with her sharp teeth just a bite away from his throat. But he trusted Holly. She'd rescued him. She was his friend. "There." She moved back. Varjak wiggled his shoulders and the hated collar fluttered down. It fell through the bars of a metal grill and disappeared into the sewers beneath the city. And now he was just another street cat, with no ties, no family, no home. "Good," said Holly. "You're one of us. If we run into them, that's what you say." "Run into who?" said Varjak. He knew the answer already. He grinned. "Not that big bad sailor." "Please," cried Tam, "you don't know what you're saying." "This isn't a joke," said Holly. She sounded serious. Varjak stopped grinning. "We have to pass near her territory to get where we're going. Remember what Ginger did to you? These cats are worse. Much worse." They set off silently, each in their own thoughts. Holly led them through the back streets, always taking the ways that were quiet and hidden. But the light noise grew stronger the further they went. The rumbling of the city was louder, harsher. Soon they couldn't avoid the dirty orange glare of street lights. They were in the open now, coming up to a crossroads. Holly's fur prickled up fast. "Hide," she hissed. They pressed themselves back into the alley, just in time to see a column of cats patrolling the other side of the crossroads. Varjak's insides knotted as he saw them, and his cheek burned where Ginger had slashed him. Holly was right. They looked much worse than the cat who'd nearly killed him. There were 7 of them. They swaggered and strutted on the sidewalk as if they owned the whole world. Other cats got out of their way, scurrying aside as they approached. At the head of the column was a brawny Tom with stripy fur. Varjak caught a glimpse of his face. It was covered in scars. "That's Razor," whispered Tam, one of her lieutenants. The 3 of them crouched silently in their hiding place, watching, waiting until the patrol had passed. "It's okay," said Holly at last. "It's so clear now. Let's move before they come back." "This crossroads is the boundary," Tam told Varjak as they left the safety of the alley. "Don't ever cross it." "I won't," he said. There were no shadowy alleys where Holly took them. Instead, there were tall white buildings arranged in a square. In its centre was a water fountain, and a huge stone column pointing up at the sky. Around the column's base there were 4 statues, one at each corner. They were statues of lions made of gleaming bronze. They were giants. Each paw was the size of a man. They had shaggy, wild manes around their backs, their heads, proud, free, fearless faces. They were so powerful, so magnificent. They were so sure of themselves. "That's what we should be," whispered Tam. "What we could be," said Varjak. "They're great." They just sat there for a while, just looking up at the statues. "We can only come here at night," said Holly. "During the day it's too crowded. People, cars, dogs. But at least it's neutral ground. The gangs leave it alone, which means they also leave those birds alone." Varjak looked again. He'd been so thrilled by the statues he'd hardly noticed that the square was swarming with pigeons. Dozens of them strutted about under the moonlight. More were coming in all the time. The air pulsed with their trilling and cooing. "So tell me, Mr. Paw," said Holly, "how exactly would you hunt one?" "What do you mean?" said Varjak, suddenly suspicious. Was she making fun of him again? He'd never tried to hunt a bird. It seemed so difficult. "I mean, go and get one of the pigeons." It sounded like a challenge. He searched her mustard eyes. She didn't look like she was making fun of him. She meant it. "All right," he said. "I will." "Holly," said Tam, "that's not fair. Don't take any notice of her, Varjak. She's being mean again." "I want to do it," he said, still looking into Holly's eyes. She smiled. Varjak slunk into the square. He selected a bird and turned all his awareness onto it. He observed it with his eyes, ears, whiskers. Nothing it did could surprise him now. He and it were one. He crept towards the pigeon, stealthy as Jalal himself. In the whole world there was nothing but him and his prey. Varjak sprang, and 100 wings came at him at once. 100 claws curved out. 100 bills clawed into chaos. Panic! Varjak fled from the flock. He hadn't expected anything so fierce. His fur ruffled, his tail trembled. He hid behind Holly and Tam, watched the birds settle down from a safe distance. "Varjak!" cried Tam. "Are you okay?" He shook his head. "I told you, Holly, no one could do that." "Exactly," said Holly. "This is what happens to me every time. And that's why even the gangs don't bother with this place. But I always think, if we could work out how to catch those birds, we'd never go hungry again." It's impossible, panted Varjak. His pulse was still pounding. It's impossible. For one cat, yes, said Holly, and yeah, we usually hunt alone. But imagine 3 of us hunting together. It could just work. Well, that's the plan. What do you think? Yeah, said Varjak Paw. I don't like the sound of this, said Tam. She buried her head in her paws and curled up to sleep. Wake me up when it's time to go home. Oh man, that is the end of chapter 18. Again, so sorry, it's such an exciting book. I love to read it, but it's time for me to stop. Time for me to let you get on with whatever it is you need to do next. I don't know if it's time to go back and do some work, or whether it's time to go out and play. Maybe it's time for baths and beds. I don't know, but whatever it is, be kind to each other, look after each other, and I will see you very soon. Bye.